Hey there, Griff Allen here from Blues Guitar Unleashed. Welcome. Thanks for joining me in today's video. I want to talk to you about both a concept and one that we've talked about before of combining the major and the minor blues sounds. But also I want to talk to you about a way to practice it, kind of a new way, a way that you may not have done before. So some of this might seem a little bit remedial if you're a more advanced player, whereas some of this might seem a little more difficult if you're a less experienced player. So understand that a lot of the things I'm going to talk about are things that I have other videos on. I'll try to direct you to those when I can. I'm going to try to sort of just throw down some basics, and then I'm going to try to get to the part where I show you how to practice it. So hang with me and let's talk about it. If we're playing over, let's say, blues in G, the main chord, the one chord, is the G7 chord, right? And you may have heard that over that chord, you are allowed to play the minor blues sound, which in this case, I am playing using good old box 1 of the minor blues scale. Okay, now, you may have also heard that you could use the major blues sound. And that is what I'm calling, I'm using what's commonly called box 2 of the blues sound. Okay, so right away, we might be on something that's new. How can you use box 1 and box 2 in the same place? Don't they connect? Well, they do if they're in the same key, but they don't if they're not in the same key. So right away, this might seem strange to you that we're going to put box 2, and by the way, the pentatonic and the blues version are what I call functionally equivalent. Okay, you use them both effectively the same way in the context of a blues. So I might say pentatonic, I might say blues, same thing, okay? Very important that you remember that. So it seems odd, probably, to think about starting with box 2. But that's, in my experience, the fastest and most efficient way to get to that sound. Yeah, you can go down 3 frets and you can realize that that's box 1 down there, but then you're going to have to go up and you're going to end up in the same spot. You're going to go, okay, well, if that's box 1, then that's box 2, and you've just gone through a bunch of mental gymnastics that are going to just take a bunch of time. Just go to box 2. I don't know. That's, in my experience, by far the easiest way to do it, to get to the major blues sound. So what you may have heard is that you can use both of those. Now, in a 12-bar blues, we have 3 chords. We have the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord, right? G7, C7, D7. The rule, for lack of a better word, is that you can use the major, the G major blues sound, as well as you can use the G minor sound all the time. You can use the G major sound over the 1 chord. Okay, well, you just can't use it over the 4 and 5. And there are good reasons for that, and that's for another video. What happens, though, when people try to practice that is they tend to get lost because they're thinking about, okay, well, which bar am I on? Is this the 4 chord? Is this the 5 chord? And there's all this listening that has to go on. And sometimes you want to turn that listening part off, okay? So what I'm going to suggest that you do is practice over just 1 chord, okay? But it's a little bit more to it than that, because here's what happens. You might think to yourself, okay, well, if I could play all of these notes, which is the major blues sound, and I could play all of these notes, which is the minor blues sound, if I put them all together, I get an awful lot of notes. So I'm just going to practice that. Well, the problem is that that doesn't sound very bluesy, okay? There's kind of no way that you can really make that sound bluesy. It sounds really chromatic. It's 9 out of 12 notes. Right? That's fully chromatic. That's all 12 notes. That's not really a bluesy sound. In blues, if you want to mix the sounds, that's awesome. But what I find happens more often than not is we get a little bit of major, then a little bit of minor, then a little bit of major and a little bit of minor. You know, it tends to go back and forth more than playing all the sounds in a row. It'll be 3 or 4 of one, 3 or 4 of the other, 3 or 4 of one, 3 or 4 of the other. An excellent way, I think, to merge the sounds is to take the major blues sound, and when you get to the 6th, there's root 2, 3, 5, 6, go up another half step and add the flatted 7th. That's pulling a note from the minor blues sound that's really, really handy because it's the 7th of the chord. So then we end up with, there's that flatted 7th again. All right, and there's other things, like when you approach the 3rd, always approach it from below with the flatted 3rd. And there's a little encasing move where you play the 4, the flat 3rd, and then the 3rd. Again, I have other videos where I talk about nothing but that, so I don't want to get too carried away right now. But listen what happens if I turn on my looper and I just played a G7 chord into it in kind of a shuffle pattern. So I play a little bit of major, then a little bit of minor, then end on a little bit of major, little bit of major, then a minor, then major, then minor, then major, then minor, then a little bit of major, minor, major, minor, major. So sometimes it can get a little bit tricky to actually call out which one I'm playing because I may be just playing one note from that other sound. I'm just kind of pulling in that one note once in a while, excuse me. So it's really important though that you realize I'm not playing all of the notes in order. And the key here is the experimentation. It's kind of noodling around with all of the different possible notes and listening to what they sound like. You gotta open up your big ears and you gotta listen to the sounds that are coming out and think, you know, do I like that sound? Does that sound like something that B.B. King would play or that Albert King would play, right? That's kind of how I judge good. Like if I might hear one of the 3 Kings play that move, then I'm gonna color that a good move. You know, that lick, that melody, that's probably a good idea. If I could conceive of one of the 3 Kings playing it, that's kind of always my litmus test. So you can do that. You can just kind of play around, you know, play around for 10 or 15 minutes, go on to something else. But it's a great way to practice moving back and forth between those sounds because you don't have any other chords involved, right? You don't have any other, we're not worried about, is this the 4 chord? Is this the 1 chord? Wait a minute, can I use this? Hold on, which bar am I at? Is this bar 6 of the phrase? Now, all of that stuff is important, okay? And there are times when you want to practice on that as well. This just isn't that time, all right? This is when we practice on our melodies, we practice on our music, on getting things that sound musical, okay? Now, one more idea I want to give you. Let's say that we were playing a chord with its root on the 5th string. Like let's say this D7, right? I'm gonna play a little D7 into my looper. Okay, so there I got some D7 in there. Now, a D minor, right now that my root is on the 5th string, the D minor sound is gonna be box 4. And notice I'm starting and ending from the 5th string. there are some notes down there on the 6th string, and I'll use them potentially, but I'm not gonna start there. Because I want to emphasize that D minor sound. Similarly, for the major sound, it'd be box 5. And again, yes, there are notes down there on the 6th string. I'm just going to emphasize that 5th string root. I really want to emphasize that note that I'm working with. Again, I can add that flatted 7th. It's a great note to add from the minor sound, just to get, you know, if you have to pick one to start with, pick that one. Right? Right there as well. They're always an octave apart. So if I start noodling over this, so I have major, minor, minor, major, minor, major, minor, kind of a little of that, there's that. So minor, major. And if you find an idea that you dig, play it a lot. You can always try double stops, by the way. So anytime that you've got any notes on adjacent strings, you can play those. You might dig the sound. Now, again, you might not, right? The whole idea here is for you to kind of experiment. Noodling, as I call it, is a really important step in the practice process. And I think it gets neglected often. You know, you want to learn this solo, you want to learn that solo from Stevie Ray Vaughan or from Albert King or from B.B. King or from Jimmy Page or whoever it is, right? You want to learn that solo. Or you want to be able to solo over a 12-bar blues. And so you're thinking about the chord changes and what you're going to use over which change and how you're going to make each change sound good. And we talk a lot about making the changes and all this kind of stuff. Well, that's all great, but if you don't have anything cool to play when one of those chords is going on, the rest of it's not really going to matter. So you kind of sometimes have to, you know, work on this foundational stuff. And if you make it up, if you're experimenting and you make it up and you like it, it's going to stay with you because it came from you. You didn't learn it someplace else. Make no mistake, your ear is absolutely 100% influenced by all of the things that you listen to. And there is no question at all that the ideas and the things that you play will be influenced by your influences. However, you're still going to be making it up on your own. You're going to be trying things out. You're going to be trying different notes, listening to whether they sound good. If they don't, color that a win because you now know what not to do next time. And that in and of itself is a great thing, okay? So take your time with this. 10 or 15 minutes a day. Play over just a single chord. Just noodle around with it. Listen to the sounds, okay? Have some fun with it above all else. Don't be too hard on yourself if it doesn't sound good. You're learning. That's what's important. Okay, so as always, if you have friends that are guitar players that you think would get something out of this video, I hope you'll share it with them. You can learn more at bluesguitarunleashed.com. Sign up for the email list. I do lots more on email than I do via whatever social media du jour is. So please go get on the email list. I have lots of cool things that I send out that way. Of course, there's premium courses there, all that good stuff. And that's it. I'm Griff Hamlin from Blues Guitar Unleashed. I look forward to talking to you soon. Have fun. Bye-bye.